a Shrine Mason. He's got all the hats. And being a Grand Master, he knows a lot about the subject. So, Grand Master, how should a Mason dive into that first bit of Masonic research?
Obviously, I think any Masonic education that's offered in your Blue Lodge or in your Lodge of Perfection meeting is a good starting place. The Masonic Service Association, MSA, Masonic Service Association, has wonderful resources in the short talk bulletins, which are kind of a nice way to get a thumbnail in to Masonic education. My experience has been that Grand Lodge websites are excellent and have lots of good resources. The Grand Lodge of North Carolina website has an educational resources tab that has lots of things that are well vetted, readily available. Grand Lodge of California has good Masonic education resources on their website. So Grand Lodge's websites are a wonderful resource. The concern that I always have when looking on the internet is you got to know how to separate the wheat from the chaff and make sure you're not getting into something that isn't as regular and Masonic as what it might appear to be.
I've been in media my whole life, and the biggest challenge still to this day is always vetting a source, making sure you're getting the right information. How do Masons find reputable sources for something like Freemasonry where there's so much misinformation?
Again, I think when you're starting with regular Grand Lodges or regular appendant bodies that are well recognized and looking at their websites or their printed resources, I think that's a great starting place. One of the best resources I've seen is actually from the Scottish Rite. In the Scottish Rite Journal, there's book reviews, and there are excellent book reviews and places to start, bibliographies to work from that I find to be very helpful. And a lot of times one thing will lead you to another. The Masonic Restoration Foundation has a great website out there with reading materials and other information about getting more into the symbolism and the more esoteric side of Masonry. So there's a lot out there that is very helpful. The conferences that the North American Conference of Grand Masters has every year, they generate a lot of educational materials. The World Conference of Grand Masters, and those kind of materials are available from your Grand Lodge through your Grand Secretary. They get those materials from those conferences and can make those available to the very interested. A lot of times it's a matter of just finding good books to read. I know in North Carolina we were trying to put together a book list and kind of rate it more like a time menu so that you know what's extra spicy and what's mild, so you kind of know where to start. And
Grandmaster, I've got to ask you about the Master Craftsman program. That's something I always recommend to men. It's available in all of our valleys. It's online at scottishrite.org. It's very organized, and the latest version goes from craft lodge masonry all the way through the high degrees of the Scottish Rite. What are your thoughts on Master Craftsman?
I think it's an outstanding program. In North Carolina, we're trying to launch something similar that we call the ADEP program, where you get certain books that are recommended to you, you read those books, you attend certain lectures, you write certain papers, and you become an adept in our Grand Lodge program. So we're trying to offer something similar because we think the Master Craftsman program is such a great idea that we're shamelessly pirating it.
In your studies, is there an area you personally most enjoy?
I am very fond of the lessons that are taught in the first three lectures. I particularly get a lot out of the third degree lecture in the Blue Lodge. I think it is, every time I hear it, it is striking to me. I remember Billy Graham being asked what surprised him most about life, and he said how fleeting it is. And I think that's the lesson that we teach. One of the things I've talked about all year is that in Masonry, we start with the ending. And if you think about it, we do. When we bring you in at your first degree or your third degree or anywhere in between, we talk a lot about the end of your life and why that should impose upon you an ability to be more sober and more purposeful about what you do. And so I find those third degree lessons to be really meaningful to me, that we're just passing through and we've got to get it right on the first go-round.
What a great way to leave it. Great thoughts, great advice from Grand Master of North Carolina, Bryant Webster.
He's a Masonic rock star, and this is his game. Tyler's Trivia with Grand Archivist Arturo de Hoyos.
For Scottish Rite Day, Brent is headed to Wichita. I'm holding down the fort here in D.C. And Art, well, you got a tough job. You're headed to Puerto Rico.
That's right, Brother Maynard. Brother Dean Albin and I will be flying to Puerto Rico.
All kidding aside, you've got some really important business to handle while you're down there.
One of the things that we'll have an opportunity to do is that we'll be meeting with the local leaders of the Masonic bodies, including the Grand Master, and have an opportunity to try to coordinate a stronger bond between the Scottish Rite, the Grand Lodge, all Masonry actually, in Puerto Rico. And we are encouraging them to use to its fullest extent our Sentinel system, which, as you know, is really it's our cherry product when it comes to the Spring Council's computer programs for membership. It's a fantastic tool, and we're hoping to get better use out of it by all our members. And Dean and I have a couple of meetings that we'll be attending. One of them will be at a conference where we'll each have the opportunity to speak to our Scottish Rite brothers. We'll have a couple of our books available for sale. We'll have some copies of Esoterica. And I don't know if you are familiar with this or aware of this or not, but the Grand Lodge of Panama published in April Esoterica in Spanish also. So we will have some copies there in both Spanish and English.
I think it is so great that text is being translated. We have so many good Scottish Rite Masons who can benefit from that, men whose native language is Spanish. And if we can translate our knowledge into Vulcan, I say do it. As long as we're getting it out for brothers, I think it's a great, great thing.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. In fact, while we were getting the books this morning, we had some discussion as to whether we ought to carry some copies of Esoterica in Spanish here at the House of the Temple, because we do frequently have brothers from foreign countries, Spanish-speaking countries. And we're kind of used to the idea in the United States that English is the national language, and I'm not saying anything for or against that. After all, I am a Spanish speaker also. But if you do go south of the border, there are a heck of a lot more people that speak Spanish, and a lot of those guys are Masons. So anything that we can do to help our brothers, I'm certainly happy for that in whatever language it could be. Freemasonry is the most remarkable institution, and I've commented to many people that one of the things that we can do, which nobody else can, is to really cross borders of all types, artificial barriers, man-made barriers, whatever they are, and we find brothers everywhere.
All right, let's handle the business of last month's question. It was one that I came up with, and it was, what two men are interred in the House of the Temple?
The illustrious dead. Those two men would be our brothers, John Henry Coles and Albert Pike, and they are interred near the library. You'll see a couple of busts, and right behind those are the alcoves where they are.
So Pike was not originally resting there. He was buried elsewhere, correct?
He was. Pike, he was kind of an interesting person for many reasons, but he actually didn't want to be buried. He had a fear of burial, it seems, from his writings. But, once you're dead, people make decisions for you, and he wound up being buried, maybe a couple of miles away from the House of the Temple, not too far from us. And by an act of Congress in the 1940s, his body was removed from the cemetery and brought to be interred in the House of the Temple. And Brother John Henry Coles was the Grand Commander who actually resided in the House of the Temple. And for that reason, he was interred here also.
From all the correct answers we received, we have to pick two winners, Eric Brinks from Des Moines and Robin Winslet from Galveston. Those two men are going to get a couple of autographed Art de Hoyos books. All right, Art, how about this month's question?
Well, my question is, and you got to put your thinking caps on for this one, if Brother Henry Bemis were visiting the House of the Temple, where would you most likely find him?
If you think you know the answer to Art's question, send it in. You can shoot me an email, podcast@scottishrite.org, or find me on SR Chirp, send a brother-to-brother message, or do both for 2 chances to win. From all the correct answers we receive, we'll pick a couple at random to be winners on Tyler's Trivia. Art, thanks so much. We'll catch you next month.
Thank you very much. We will look forward to speaking with you again and come back with a suntan.
This is the Tyler's Place.
That's going to wrap it up for the Tyler's Place. I'm your host, Maynard Edwards. Thank you so much for joining me. Don't forget to get those Scottish Rite smartphone apps. First of all, if your Valley has an app, you should definitely use that. Second of all, SR Chirp. It's a little bit like Twitter. You can talk to guys from all over the Southern jurisdiction, and it's brothers only, so it's a lot of fun. Also, the Scottish Rite Journal app. You can read the journal on your tablet or on your phone. So if you're standing in line at the grocery store at the DMV, you can check out what's happening in the Scottish Rite. And of course, the Tyler's Place app, available for Apple and in the Google Play Store. You can listen to all the Tyler's Place podcasts all in one spot right on your smartphone or tablet. So get those apps today. They're free, and we'd love to have you join in the fun. As always, you can email me, podcast@scottishrite.org. Happy Veterans Day to all of our veterans, and a happy Thanksgiving to each and every one of my Scottish Rite brothers, wheresoever dispersed. I will catch you guys next time right here on the Tyler's Place.
If you're interested in becoming a Freemason or in joining the Scottish Rite, email us at podcast@scottishrite.org.